Good afternoon. Welcome to another Goalline webinar. My name is Amanda Velutini, and we'll get started shortly here. Going to be covering camps and clinics today and how you would use your Goalline system to handle camp and clinic registration, as well as some website things, some reporting, and different options for how you can communicate and organize your camp registrants as you go along. Little housekeeping just to get started. You'll notice that you don't have the option to speak during the webinar, but there is a chat. So if you do have any questions as we go along, you can feel free to throw those questions into the chat. And if I forget to mention it, Goalline does have a dedicated support team that can be reached via email, live chat, or by phone. Live chat and phone support is available Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern. But you can email a case in or submit a case through our online support center anytime, 24 hours a day, and you should expect to hear back from someone quickly. There may be some features that you see in today's webinar that aren't applicable on your site, and if that's the case, then you can definitely start by reaching out to support to see what it is that we need to get enabled for you, and they'll put you in touch with the right folks. It could be just a flick of a switch, or it could be that you'll need to connect with someone to get, for example, if you don't have a StackPay merchant account yet, to take online payment, or if you're not using registration tools at all, that's something that we would get you process with. And if you don't have the shopping cart tools enabled that we're going to look at today, don't worry, because number one, you can still definitely do camp registrations without shopping cart. But I think the features that you'll see in today's webinar are going to really highlight the huge benefit to both your registrants and to you as an administrator on why the shopping cart tools are going to be a little more beneficial for you. So without further ado, we will get started. So again, camps and clinics on Goalline. And if you joined a lot of my webinars or watch them on the replay, you might notice that I'm not using the same old demo site as I always use. I am using a new one because I wanted to start a little bit fresh. Most of the demos and webinars that I use my demo site for are doing a lot of scheduling and a lot of different things. So I wanted to use a different site this time and kind of see how a camp or clinic organization, if you run hockey schools or soccer camps or summer camps, multi-sport, whatever it happens to be, this is the place to be. So we're going to dive in. What we're looking at here on the public side is what we call our silver layout. Some might know it as responsive design, but the idea behind this layout is that it is highly mobile responsive. So whether it's being viewed on a desktop, laptop, tablet, or phone, it's going to behave appropriately. Let me see if I can do a little preview of that for you. And if you've never used this little funky tool, if you inspect your website, you can see it generally in some different ways. And depending on what browser you use, what mine does is it lets me view it as if I was on a mobile device. So you can see here how the size of the screen just automatically resized and everything is optimized, including the open options for our hamburger style menu here, where I can open up the menu items, close those menu items, and scroll through all of the modules that are on the site right down to the footer. So this is our silver layout. I typically show off a lot of my my demo site, which is what we call our gold layout. Gold being mostly just the fact that it takes custom design work to get that nice background and banner image done. Regardless of your site layout, you can still use all of the tools that we're going to see here today. Even if you're actually only using what we call our registration only, you can still have all of these, all of the registration features and reporting tools we're going to look at. But obviously, without a full functioning website, either in the silver or the gold, it's not a place to hold your content and things like that. So this is our silver layout, and we've got it lightly configured here. We've got some call out information here. We've got some upcoming events and things like that, but really not a whole lot done yet on the public side. We'll dive into how I'm going to want to organize that to make it easy for people to find what they're looking for. The other major part of this is going to be how you organize your menu up here. So I've got a camps and programs web page where I've got a couple sub pages that talk about the different types of camps. So if I introduce a hockey camp or a football camp, then I would want to create a web page so that I can highlight what all is going to be in that camp. So these are just your own content. You can create whatever you want. Make sure that everyone knows what they need to know about your programming. With your own web pages, you can obviously create links that link directly to the registration form to that event, but you can also just have your registration forms placed directly in your menu like I've done here. And if I have 6 or 7 different registration forms, they would all be listed as long as they're set to be published and shown in the menu. Don't worry about having to remember that. I'll definitely show you that setting. The other key that you would definitely want to make sure you have in your menu, whether it's for camps or clinics or just regular season registration, is the registration account link. As soon as someone has registered with you on Goalline, they do have a registration account, and you would want to make sure that they have access to that. When I click on the registration account, actually, I'm going to be signed in. So let me sign out, and we'll do that again. Just one sec here. So let's navigate around. So when I click to go into the registration account, it's going to prompt me to either create an account or to log into my existing account. And just mentioning this is strictly to use with our shopping cart tools. If you're not using shopping cart, you won't see this. What you'll see is the registration form, and you'll enter your information, and you may have to use what's called the access code, which is associated with each and every person in the Goalline platform. So players, coaches, referees, officials, registrants, everyone who is a person in the system with a first name, last name, date of birth, is also going to have an access code. And so you may be seeing just strictly the access code offering there. If that's the case, that means your organization is not using our shopping cart tools. And we've got some great documentation on how to make that transition, especially if you do already have people in your database, because they will need to create an account. If I already have, 100 players in my system, they come back to register, but now we've enabled shopping cart, I am still going to create an account, and then I'll associate my existing profile with the account that I create, and then I'm just off to the races, and I'm able to start registering for camps or whatever it is that I'm going to register for. The other huge benefit of the registration account with shopping cart is that the same username and password that lets me access this system to register is good on any Goalline site anywhere in Goalline. So it doesn't have to be that I could have created a registration account with my local hockey club last year, and I can still use that same registration account when I go to sign up for your camps and clinics, as long as it's a Goalline profile. And my profiles would still be completely separate and all of that. So it's not like administrators would see activity from other organizations. It's just a really helpful tool for your registrants, like parents who don't want to have to remember multiple passwords for multiple sport organizations that all happen to be using the Goalline platform. So once we log into the registration account, lots of stuff that the registrant's going to be able to do in here, and we'll come back to this a little later on. But those are some important items in your menu that I wanted to point out, along with just the general layout options here. When you are signing in as an administrator, you're going to log in using the admin login. So you wouldn't log in through the registration account. You'd be asked to log in over here in the admin side. So I'm already logged in the back end. When you do log in, this is where you're going to come. You're going to see your Goalline master menu. Depending on what permissions you specifically have as a user, you may or may not see everything. You may not be able to click on everything, and you may not see all of the options available in things like league and team dropdowns. So Amanda, why would I have leagues and teams if I'm running camps and clinics? There's a really good reason why you might want to structure the back end of your Goalline system so that it does still have a semblance of leagues and teams, but you're going to use those a little bit differently than a sport organization would who's running a regular season schedule into playoffs or a tournament and things like that. The idea of using leagues and teams could still be very, very helpful for you to group all of your registrants so you can communicate with them more specifically. And it also adds a layer of delegation that you can do to the administrators of individual programs. So what I mean by that is I'm going to hop in to one of my, these are leagues, but really if you can see here, I've just got them organized that I have soccer camps. We have one in the summer and one in the fall. I might add one later down the road for the winter. And then we have multi-sport camps again in the summer and fall. Maybe I've got a multi-sport March break camp that should also be part of this. What I can do with these is when I hop into the summer camp division, it's going to show me that there's nothing in here. There's no teams in here. And that's fine, because maybe now I want to decide what kind of teams am I going to need. And by teams, really, I'm thinking groups. If our summer camp has 3 different locations, then maybe I want 3 different teams in here so they can represent the different locations. So location 1, location 2, and location 3. Or maybe you just have lots of registrants and it's group 1, 2, 3, group A, B, C, whatever makes sense to you as far as how you're going to divide up your summer soccer camps into their individual groups. And these can persist over time. There is a managing seasons function in Goalline that basically archives everything from the previous season and sets you up and gets you ready for the next one. So this kind of setup of creating some leagues and teams within the Goalline platform to use so that you can distribute those players could become very, very helpful over time, because it just helps you drop people into where they should go. And then once you have teams within, now we can see that these teams exist here. And I could create an administrator with permission to do things with this one and only team, which is why it's a really good way to set that up. I can take my registrations and then I can assign those registrations to their appropriate grouping or team based on what do they register for, what location or group are they going to be in. And now that we can hop into that team level, you can have a team administrator whose responsibility is just to this one group. They could also have more, but the idea being one team at a time. I can come in here and I can say, let me send an email announcement to everyone. So I'm going to send an email announcement and it's going to include everybody who is on this team. And you can set up other kind of helpers and staff as coaching staff if you wanted to, or they can strictly just be website administrators or registrants in the system. But I can send emails directly out that are just specific to this team. So you can give out permissions that help really delegate the administrative tasks that are related to running the camps at either the different groups or the different locations or across different camp types that you do and different times of year. So having that league and team structure can be very, very helpful for you. When you are set up with a Goalline system, one of the first things that you do is create either leagues or teams. And so it is really a part of the foundation of Goalline, and it does function really nicely that way. Now, you don't ever need to use that method, but as I mentioned, I find those kind of that structure to be really easy to use, because now as I go into manage website administrators, this is where anybody who can log in and actually do any administrative task is a website administrator. They can either be full permission or they can be very, very limited permission. So if I want to add an administrator who's going to be my location 1 soccer camp coordinator, I can create them as a team administrator. And when I put in their information, why not create me again? Why not? Here we go. So I want to put in a title that's appropriate. So it can be location 1, soccer, maybe summer, whatever makes sense, and maybe write those in different orders because that's not really a very clear label. The system will generate a username and a password automatically for the website administrator, but you could also just create it by typing it in. When it creates it automatically, it's going to take the last name and put the first initial in front of it. If that doesn't amount to 6 characters, it will add some zeros. And as we scroll down, we'll see that there are permissions that you can give out, and these permissions are super, super granular. So the association-wide permissions, for the purpose of what we're looking at here, I wouldn't really want to grant this person full association-wide permissions. I'm just going to make this a little bigger here so we can see some of the words in there. So when I want to give them permissions, I do want them to be able to see the people who are signed up for their camp, but I don't necessarily want them to just be able to do searches for all of the players or athletes that have been registered into the summer camps. I don't want them to see everything. I just want them to see what I've given them responsibility for. And someone else may have a responsibility of coming in and saying, here's all the registrants, and let's just divide them up into their teams and groups. So if you are using that structure, this location 1 administrator could be given the permissions for summer soccer location 1, either all of the permissions that are available or just some of them. Should I only be able to create email announcements in the communication tools, for example? Maybe should I be able to create a photo gallery? Should I be able to view the roster of players or the list of players that are in there? Should I be able to do anything else in here? So you can give out those really granular permissions. I would say that as a coordinator of a camp, that's probably a good amount of permissions for them to have, but you can certainly get even more creative in there. So we can save this user. It's going to create them as a website administrator. It's going to email them their username and password. And then you can create another one for other teams. So now that we just created this profile, I can go in and just log in as this person and see what happens. Main contacts can do this for any website administrator. So what this does is it just shows me what does this person have in their view. Just make it a little smaller now when they log in. So they're automatically brought to the team they have permission for, and that's because they don't have permission for any other menu. There's nothing they can click on in any other menu. They can't see the other team. They're just limited to what's available here, and they're only able to do things that I gave them permission for. So I can view photo galleries and update those, and I can edit the players that are on the roster. But that's it. That's all I can really do. Or sorry, I can also send the email announcement up here. So when I look at the players on the roster, this is what's going to show me who's currently there. I don't have permission to add, but when you are a person who has multiple permissions, you may see an add create screen here. If the roster existed, we would see it here. But of course, we don't have a roster yet. We'll take a look at how we're going to get that to happen as we look at a little bit more of these camp and clinic tools. So that's what an administrator who's been given those very specific permissions is going to see. So you can kind of see that idea of really restricted permissions so that they're not able to do or see things that are just not in their realm of responsibility. If they don't wear that hat, then they don't need it. The other things that we're going to cover in here is a lot to do with the registration side of things. And again, I am focusing on the fact that the shopping cart tools are enabled here, and they are really, really helpful when it comes to camps and clinics in particular. Anytime you have a structure where a person wants to select, would want to select more than one program. So when it comes to things like regular season registration or a league registration, or something like that, you would probably not use these features for those forms, but you can have the features and use them on some forms, but not all. We're going to focus on the 2022 summer camps form that's here. So I'm just going to edit this. This is just reminding me that it's currently published, and if I make any changes, it's going to become unpublished, and that's just sort of a security thing, so people don't register while you're in there making changes, for example, to prices or required information. So as soon as you save a change, you will have to republish the form when you're ready for it to go published again. Our form building process is always a 5-step process. So first is what information are we collecting? Then what program offerings are there? What policies do they have to consent to? How are they able to pay? And then the confirmation message configuration. There's all kinds of general settings in here too. This is, of course, where you're going to set what's the title of the form, what type of person is it for, because registration forms in Goalline could be registrants, athletes or players, coaches, officials, or volunteers. So in this case, it is for athletes. I want them to be treated like athletes because they're the registrants for my camp. The registration closing date, this always defaults to a year from the day you create it, but I don't want people signing up for my summer camps until May of next year. I want them to finish signing up by the end of June because the camps are going to start in July. So I want to make sure that I adjust my closing date. And then there's some other settings that you can set if you want to. So display the form in the menu. I've chosen yes for this. Enable or require existing participants. So this just means if you're already in my system, can you register? And if you're not in my system, can you register? The answer here is almost always going to be yes, but there are use cases for either or. If it's, you can register on this form if you're brand new, never signed up with us ever before, because we're going to offer maybe special prices to those people, or it could be something where you can only sign up if you've done, if you're in our system and you've done our programs in the past. So lots of use cases for either of those, but yes is the happy medium where new and return returning people are going to be able to register for your programs. And then here's the option that shows up now. If you have our shopping cart tools enabled for your site, you're going to see the option to allow registrants to register for multiple programs. By default, without shopping cart tools, you can only register for one program, but you can select more than one product. And that applies in a lot of cases where you would go ahead and let people sign up for one program because you only want them registered for one thing, but they can buy more than one product if you have a different offering that you wanted to give them. When it comes to camps and clinics and things that have multiple sessions are definitely going to benefit from the multiple program registration option. And we'll see when we skip over to the program listing how those programs should be structured to make it easier for you. And of course, it's all going to depend on how you offer your programs, of course. But then the other one is, what else could we do here? We might want to take wait lists. So one of the big things is that you will, I think no matter what, have a maximum capacity. You're going to have a maximum number of people who can be part of any of your camps or clinics. There's just not enough space for everyone. You can't take unlimited registrations. So when you have limited registrations, you can take a wait list that automatically compiles, and then you have some choices with how that wait list is going to behave. As we scroll down here, we can see what information are we asking for, and this is pretty straightforward. There's a whole bunch of standard fields that you can ask for, and you can set those as required, yes or not on the form at all. So anything that's in the no column just doesn't show up, but anything that is yes is optional. Anything that is required is in fact required. You're always going to notice that you cannot remove first name, last name, and date of birth. And in many cases, you can't remove email address. There's a few conditions there, but email address is strongly recommended as being required, and it should be required for the player field, even if you're expecting it's going to end up being a parent's email address. It's just going to be a little bit more of a streamlined way of communication. They can always update that through their registration account down the road if they want that email address that you communicate with to be different. So if a player is maybe 14 and then now they're 17 years old and they have their own email address, they can update that to reflect that. You can also ask additional questions, and I've asked a couple of additional questions on this form that are great examples that I see all the time of questions you need answers to for the safety of everybody involved. So the first question I have is, are there any allergies or medical conditions? This is a radio button option, and the choices are yes or no. So you can answer this question. You have to answer this question because it is required, and you can only choose between yes or no. I also have another question that asks for you to please list any of your allergies or medical conditions. And I also made this required. But you can see how that can be a little irritating as a registrant, because if I said, no, I don't have any allergies or medical conditions, why do I also have to enter this field? Well, you don't. So once I make it required, I can immediately say that this is required based on answering the allergies question with the answer yes. So if I answer no to the allergies question, then that's the end of it. I just move on to whatever's next. But if I answer yes, now this question becomes required, and I can't submit my registration form without providing an answer. In this case, it's a text box, so we need to have some content in that text box before you can proceed. So rather than make everyone type into that text box, not applicable, it's only going to show up for folks who actually do say yes to the allergies or medical conditions question. You can add an unlimited number of additional questions, and once you have those questions in, you can actually set the order. So the order generally defaults in the order in which you created the questions, but you can rearrange them if you wanted to by using the order and just save, and it's going to reshuffle those around. Then there's parent or guardian information that you can collect, and there's up to 2. So you can have parent or guardian 1 or 2 that you can collect their information. And again, required, collected, or not collected at all. Just in general, I always recommend require the first parent or guardian, do not require the second, but you can include it. You can ask for that information, but I generally recommend that you don't require a second parent or guardian to be in there. I'm actually just noticing that we don't have a label for our parent or guardian field. So I'm going to hop out and let's just do that. So what's fun about the Goalline system as well, there's all kinds of things that we try to do to make it so that you can really customize customize the forms for your purposes. So all of that standard information is one way, but then other things that you can do to change the labels on certain things to be more applicable to the way you do your business. So I'm going to go to the site configuration tool, and there is going to be a field in here where I can create what I want for my own label for the parent section. So in the layout here, I can see parent section title. Right now it's blank. So I'm going to say parent/guardian, but you could put, parent/emergency contact, or, parent one, parent two, whatever makes sense. But I just generally find that parent/guardian is the most inclusive option for that particular field. If you do strictly adult organization stuff, then you don't necessarily need to label it as parent or guardian. Maybe you want to label it as emergency contact. But if you do a little bit of both, something that's a good catch-all, so parent/guardian/emergency contact, it can be kind of whatever you want. Again, just to be as inclusive as possible and not alienate anybody who feels like they can't complete the form because they didn't have two parents to place in those fields. So now that we've done that, let's refresh over here and just see how that change is going to be reflected right away in the section that we see on our registration form. So as we go down here, we're going to now see that we have parent/guardian information collected. And so when we see those fields on the form, is the parent/guardian an account holder? Is the parent, or like, what is the parent/guardian's first name? So we're not using anything that's going to be exclusive language there. Excuse me, sorry. You can ask additional questions of the parents as well. With a lot of sport organizations, a big question that always gets asked of parents is, are you interested in volunteering? So just to point out that there's lots of different ways you can collect information. So you could include check boxes where they can select multiple. Are you interested in volunteering? Yes, no, maybe. And then if they say yes or maybe, let's make another question where they can say, what are you interested in volunteering for? Camp check-in, or volunteer, or equipment manager, whatever options you have that are available for volunteers to help out with, just to try to get more parents to volunteer and help out with running those camps and clinics. There's also the ability to have the registrant download an attachment or upload an attachment that you specifically need in for their registration. So you can have them download up to 3 files, and they can upload up to 3 files. Sometimes people want to use that for things like a proof of age, or there could be various other things. If it's for coaches, a lot of times it's maybe like a certificate or something that they should be uploading for their credentials. So just to point out that there's some options there. So that's the collection of the information. You can collect as much or as little as you need. And again, those extra questions, you have an unlimited number of those. I always just generally recommend still that you keep it as minimal as possible so that people don't have to enter a whole bunch of information. But also keep in mind that one of the other benefits of not just shopping cart, but Goalline registration in general, is that once you've registered and you have a profile, all the information that's in your profile stays there. So next time I go to register, I don't need to enter my address again if I've already entered my address. I would still have to answer any form specific extra questions that may have been asked, but I'm not going to have to enter my email address and phone number and address over and over again every time I register, because I'm just going to be loading my profile using my access code, and it will populate the form with everything it needs. So now when we're looking at our programs, this is all where we have our program offering. So what are you registering for? Our products, what do you want to purchase? And discounts, if there are any available. The program offering, the way that I've structured this so far, I've gotten started here with multi-sport camp registration. We've got 1, 2, and 3 weeks of that. And then we're going to offer a summer camp in multiple weeks as well. So a soccer camp. So we can do a soccer camp. Let's do a week 2 for our soccer camp. When I click to add this payment type, just confirming again, because now I'm saving a change to my live registration form. Um, when I go to edit my soccer camp program, I want to add the payment details so that they can see that it's, a full day camp. There may be other details that are relevant. I have a lot of organizations that I've worked with who you might have week one half day mornings, week one half day afternoons, week one full day. So there's lots of different structures that you want to offer to the people who are registering for your camps. And so whatever that breakdown is that you offer to those registrants, you're able to set that up in here. So I've just got it set up in weeks and full days. So when I do that, I set the price. So my soccer camps are $200 a week. And then now I've got some other options in here. If I needed to, I can restrict the gender to either male or female. By default, there's no gender or age restrictions on any of your programs. And by default, there's also no maximum number of registrants. So an unlimited number of people are going to be able to sign up and register for this program right now. And there's no restriction on age or gender. If I do have a restriction on age or gender, so again, soccer camp week 2, maybe for 6 to 8-year-olds. So there might be an age restriction that I want to put in there. And what I would do is enter the birth year range that's applicable to kids who are 6 to 8 years old right now. So those restrictions can be added. These are per program. All of these things are per program. Maximum number of players is also per program. So if I can take only 25 kids into my soccer camps, I can cap that number at 25, and then I can enable a wait list. If I don't enable a wait list, the program becomes full once we have 25 registrants, and the future registrants are just going to see that it's full and they cannot register. If I choose to enable a wait list, it's going to allow them to sign up onto the wait list. When they're on the wait list, they are not required to pay any fees. They're just on the wait list and they receive a confirmation. And then you can invite them to register from the wait list, either if space becomes available, or someone drops out and you have more space available, or let's say you realize you have so many people on the wait list that you're just going to double the size of your program, or bring in an extra staff member so that you can make it, instead of 25, we can make it 30 people because I've got an extra set of hands that can come and help out. So lots of different things you can do when it comes to your restrictions on your programs. You can also choose whether or not you want that number of registrants to be shown on the form. Sometimes people don't want the numbers of registrants to be available publicly. Sometimes people do want that to encourage people to register quickly. So either they can see the number of registrants, so they would see things like there's 5 out of 25 spots full, or there's 24 out of 25 spots full. So they have an idea of how quickly they should register. You can choose to hide that or show that. It's up to you. So I'm going to save this program here. So now we've got another program to offer for our soccer camp registrations. And because I made a change, I'm going to want to click publish before I go and step away from the computer so that people can continue to register for my summer camps. The product offering, you'll notice here with products and discounts, I have an add or remove option here, but I'm not creating them right in this space. Creating products, you may have this option on your registration forms where you can just create a product by typing in the name of a product over here. We are offering a new, I say it's new, it's not really, it's several years, but not everyone has changed to it, is we have association-wide products and discounts. And what's great about that is I can create a camp t-shirt product as an organization. And that one camp t-shirt product can be offered on any and all of my registration forms. Same thing with discounts. I can create one discount code for, say, 2022 siblings that I want to distribute to folks to be able to use a discount code, or maybe there's a staff discount that's offered to your staff members, maybe 50 or 100% off of their kids' registrations. So you can create a bunch of discounts and a bunch of products that you can then add or remove from your registration forms. So here I've just got the one available and it's just a camp t-shirt, but I can create as many as I need. To do that, we're just going to head out to the website section. So I've got 2 tabs open. I'm just flip in between them. And I'm going to find the commerce section here, and I can add, edit, or delete products and discounts. So I can see my t-shirt over here. What's great about this tool in particular, so number one, I can create products and discounts here that can be used on all my forms without having to create the same product on all my forms separately, which is kind of the older way of using products and discounts. The other great thing about using products and discounts here is that you can actually add attributes. So no more having to collect information on step one for what size t-shirt do you wear, when I can just say we're going to offer a t-shirt, and then I'm going to offer sizes, and those sizes are going to be whatever my size options are: small, medium, large, extra large, etc. Maybe it's color and size. You can have multiple attributes, so that when you're on, when people are registering, they're able to select not just the product, but also their size and color preference. When you have products, you can even have the product dollars be sent to a different merchant account. So if you have merchandise where it's actually kind of a separate business or a separate bank account that the funds from those things go to, you can set it up so that when people buy a t-shirt, the $5 for that t-shirt actually goes here instead of going to whatever merchant account the regular registration fees are going to. So you can create payment splitting with your product offerings as well, which works really well when you have kind of a separate merchandise provider. You'll notice too that you can also add tax information. So if you have to charge tax on the products, you can. I kind of skipped over that in the programs. You can do that on programs as well, to make sure that you're charging taxes appropriately. You can even add your tax number into the Goalline system so that it's shown on receipt information. So you can create your products in here, and then as many products as you have, you're able to offer those on all of your registration forms. So we'll hop back over here. The other thing that I'll point out throughout here is that you do have the option of selecting or entering additional instructions. So these are lots of text areas where you can make sure that people are aware of, what program offerings are all about and that kind of thing. Although your website can do that a lot for you as well. So we'll move on. Step 3, policies. Policies are required on every single Goalline registration form. There's going to be a waiver, a privacy policy, a refund policy, and contact information. These fields are absolutely required, and they are just meant to be helpful for you as an organization to make sure that all of the policy information that you need them to consent to and agree to is available at their fingertips at the time that they register, as well as later on when they're looking at that registration transaction in their registration account. You can also see it on the administrator side of what policies were there when they registered and how or when the consent was provided. So if there's ever a need to go back into those policies, if there's an issue with a registrant, you're able to refer to what the policies were when they registered. These can also have their own individual consent lines within. So if we add a consent a macro, or the kids call it hashtags. If I say consent and then I agree to this paragraph, you can have as many of these throughout your policies as you need in each of these individual sections. In particular, that can be for things like privacy policies and photo policies and things like that. Note that if there is a consent checkbox, it is required, and you can't just not choose to acknowledge that. So there's not really a concept of I'll agree to this, but not that. You either agree to it or you don't register. So you can have these kind of consent options throughout. And then at the very bottom, you're also going to see another consent option. This is the overall, I need to submit this before I can move on to the next step kind of thing. You are able to not include it at all, and it's just go ahead and move on. But it's strongly recommended, of course, to have a consent option that's either a checkbox or a name input. When you use a checkbox, it's pretty typical. You check the box, I agree to the terms. When it's name input, it's you're expecting that they're going to type their name into the field that consents, and you can actually validate that so that they put something that does match the parent or guardian name that was entered, so that they can't just type I do not consent in that text field. It has to match properly exactly what was entered for the first and last name of the parent, guardian 1 or 2 on step 1. Checkbox is a really popular one, especially if your policies are really written out with lots of individual consent checkboxes throughout. And then we also, Goalline is fully aware of our CASL requirements, so Canadian anti-spam legislation. The CASL messaging here is optional, but it's highly recommended because you want people to choose to opt in to receiving your email. As you know, here in Canada, we cannot just opt people in automatically. And it also won't check the box automatically. They have to physically check it in order to consent to your email. And so we want to make sure that you've got lots of areas to make sure that they are choosing to receive your email. They will still receive access code retrievals and registration confirmations, but they may not receive anything else. They may not receive any information about upcoming events or emails from your system that are important to them about their upcoming camps. So it's important that they do agree to some email. So I'm just going to save that because I made a couple changes there. Then we're going to look at payment information. Payment information is another area where you can have a lot of flexibility. You can say that you can pay offline, which is register now, pay later. You can also say that you want to collect online payment, and you can choose to only allow online payment. This only lets people register if they pay at the time of registration, or you can offer the choice, in which case registrants will get to the end of the process and they'll choose, I'm going to pay offline, come back in, maybe pay tomorrow, or I want to write you a check. Those kind of things. When you have offline payment, you should include offline payment instructions so that it's clear to the registrants how they're going to provide you their payment. And that could include the instruction to say that they can log into their registration account and pay by credit card anytime, or maybe write a check to send a check to this address, or e-transfer with this password, whatever makes the most sense. So you set up your payment options there, and then your confirmation message. Again, this is pretty straightforward, but you do need to configure your confirmation email so that when it goes out, people see that it's from the registrar and from this email address, so that if I need to reply, I'm going to be replying to this email address. And then you've got lots of ways to customize this. You can customize this with all kinds of extra information. You can type up a bunch of content. You can use more of these text placeholders to fill in information, so that people get a really nice comprehensive email confirmation. So I'm going to click to publish my form again here now so that we can go and check it out. So when we're looking at the public side of the site, we're going to see that registration form drop down here. I'll click on my summer camps. And now I want to, well, I already signed in earlier, right? So I'm signed in here now. And because I'm signed in, if I'm new, I'm not a returning athlete to your system. So I'm going to say no. And then I can see all of the information that you have required on this form. So I can see what my required questions are going to be. I can fill in this information and proceed. But if I already have a profile in my existing account, not with you, but with someone else, I can load a profile and I can choose to register another person. So I'm going to select that person and load that up. And you're going to see here, it filled in all the information that was available. So it's got the first name, last name, date of birth, email address, gender's currently not specified, and there's no parent or guardian information. So we'll put in some parent to guardian information here. Why not? There we go. So I filled in my parent to guardian information, but there's this required question here. Do I have allergies or medical conditions? If I say no, that's it, and I can save and proceed. But as soon as I say yes, we see that conditional question. So please list any allergies or medical conditions. So I always, for fun, I'm allergic to whey protein for no particular reason. So I enter that on here. So I put that in and I save and proceed. Now that I've put in my information, I head over to the programs. The program offerings are checkboxes where I can select multiple. This is the biggest difference with that multiple program registration offering than what you would see with the default registration, where there's radio buttons where you can only select one of the programs. So I want to sign up for multi-sport week 1 and soccer week 2, and I could choose other ones, but those those are the ones that I want. You can see here that we do have a maximum in some of them. And so there's already a registrant over here for soccer camp week 1, but only 1 out of 25 spots is filled. So that's great. Lots of space available. I can think about that one and, maybe come back to it later, or have another child that I want to register for. Then I can see here there's an option for a camp t-shirt. Why not? For $5, let's get a camp t-shirt. There are size options over here. So if I try to save and proceed, it's going to say I can't do that because I haven't picked what I want of this product. So I can look here and select a different the specific size that I want, and then save and proceed. So registering for multiple programs, easy as that. Now I'm looking at the policies. So all the information I provided, what did I pick? What am I going to be paying today? Information about those policies, consent checkbox that I need to agree to, read through. And then here's our opt-in to receiving email. So I'll check that I do want to get your email. And then here's my overall consent. And then because my form is offering a choice, I need to choose, how am I going to pay? Am I going to pay that by credit card, or am I going to pay later? So I'm going to say that I'm going to pay later just because I'm not putting my real credit card information here. Now I can choose to either add to the cart or just go ahead and check out right away. So adding to the cart is what I would do if I have another child to register for summer camps, or if I needed to go do something else, I can add it to my cart and I can come back to it and check out. And I can continue to leave it in my cart and check out later, as long as the form is still published and available. So I can come back to this a week from now, and if the program is not full yet and the form is still available, I will be able to register. But if the program fills up in the meantime and I haven't submitted to pay, I'm not registered, and I'm going to lose my chance, and it's going to send me back to the form to maybe select a different set of programs. So I'm going to click checkout. It is going to add it to my cart. I say okay, and now it's going to take me to my cart so that I can submit my registration. And there could potentially be multiple in here. Your registrants also can look at this and say, you know what, I'm gonna change my mind. I don't want to do multi-sport. I want to do soccer for week 1 and week 2. I can edit, go back to the registration. It's going to keep all my information, but I just go and make the adjustments and add it to my cart again, or click checkout again. Because I'm registering offline, I'm just going to submit these. But if I was forcing an online payment, or if I chose online payment, the payment button would be here, and I would put in my credit card information and submit. So I'm just going to submit it as offline. And so now that we've got a few registrants, we'll hop in and take a look at how we are going to see those registrants and report on that information. So my order is complete. That has been completed. Check my email. I'm going to get a confirmation email, and those confirmation emails come in pretty quickly. I've got a couple from earlier today and just got another one here. Let's see if I can bring that up. There we go. So I received this just now, but I received a few because I registered a couple of times. So it just summarizes everything for me. This is my email confirmation that came from Registrar. So I'm able to see that. I'm able to interact with that, and it provides all the information that I might need in the future. So let's hop in now, back over to the back end. I'm just going to click on the Goalline logo here to get back to my master menu, just the main menu over here. And now I want to search for those registrants. Because they were athletes, I'm going to go to Find Athlete. When I come in here, there's all kinds of search criteria that I can combine, or I can just go ahead and go right down to the registration information section. When I open this up, it's going to show me all the forms that I have available that have registrations. And I'm going to see the 2022 summer camp. The date range on this search screen is going to default to the first of the current month to today. So if you did open this registration in April, you would just expand your date range to make sure you're catching them there. But if you're only interested in who registered today, you could restrict that to just today. You'll see the other criteria here where you can search. My go-to is just check all, so I can see who's registered for all of this stuff. And then I'm going to search those athletes. So it's going to bring up a list of who's registered, and it's also going to summarize a little bit of what's going on in there. So I've got 2 registrations. That's 2 separate people, and the amount owing is $760. And when I look through, I can see what registrations have occurred. These are the people who have registered, and it shows me what they registered for. So we've got a multi-sport and a soccer camp week 2, a multi-sport week 2, soccer camp week 1, and so on. So we can see here the statuses of all of this. And I can open up one of these profiles and take a closer look. This is also, as an administrator, how I'm going to record a payment if they paid me with cash or check. So I would come through and I would pay, I would select to record a payment for whatever is due here. So if I'm taking these as separate payments, they're paying for week 1 camp, I can put in my comment here of, they were paid me with check number 123. So we'll pick check here, and I can indicate who's paying. If I say other, I can type in who paid, and that's important in some cases, more than others, depending on whether or not you provide tax receipts, or how important that tax receipt is. So now we've got our multi-sport camp week 1 is paid for. And this is really useful because you could have something I didn't really mention. You can have due dates for each and every program. And those due dates can be different as far as when the payment needs to be received. Sometimes it's as long as you pay before the program starts. So, if you have week 1, week 2, you might want to allow them to stagger the way that they pay so that they're not all due at the exact same time. That is one way of going about it, is recording the payment here. The other thing that might happen is they might register and then choose to just log into their registration account and pay later. Sorry, where did that screen go? Let's go back over here. Here we go. So I'm going to go and I'm just going to click view registration account. So this is going to take me to my registration account. This is the registrant that I registered earlier, but I have multiple profiles because I have more than one personality, I guess. So I have my multiple people in there. When I go to the transactions and payments tab, I can see this person. We've got $380 is due, and here's the breakdown of what that's for. And here I can click make a payment. And this is going to ask me to make a payment for my registration, and I can do partial payments as a registrant. So if you've allowed the option of offline payment, then they are able to come in and make multiple payments towards whatever it is that they owe. So you're able to come in and do that multiple or offline payment as a credit card payment later on. And so if I don't want to pay for this one yet, I can remove that, and I would only be paying the $180, math being what it is. Yes. So $180 is what I would pay here. And when I go to submit this, it's then going to take me to the Stack Pay form where I enter my information and submit that payment. So you as an administrator, you can record partial payments. The registrant can make partial payments. If you only allow online payment, they have to pay in full at the time of registration. So that's just something to be aware of. So that is what we see when we're searching in here. The other great stuff that we can do in here is I can email everyone who registered, and I can email just the player, or I can email both the player and parent or guardian, depending on what I have. When I click that, it's going to show me the participants. So in this case, I only have 2 players, but I can see who it is that I'm going to be emailing, and notice that I can just uncheck somebody if I need to. When I go to email those recipients, I now don't have to worry about any of the criteria for sending an email announcement. It's just going to go to the 2 players whose player email and parent or guardian email is going to receive my email. So I can say, camp starts soon, so that they know, make sure you bring your sunscreen. I'm a ginger. I'm a redhead, so I always talk about sunscreen first when it comes to summer anything. Water bottle, change of, I don't know, change of socks. Why not? And whatever else you need to send them as information. And then when you click to send that, it's going to go to those participants, and then it will summarize it for you really quickly just to see of the people you selected, it went to this. So it went to the parents of the players that I had selected. So here's the email addresses that it went to, so I can see that. And now if I go back to the email announcement screen, I'm going to see that email. So historically, now that I've sent this email, I'm going to be able to see that email, and I can always go back and view who did see that email. So I can click to show those recipient details to see that again down the road. So if Amanda Vellutini contacts you and says, I never got your email, you can say, oh, I see that we sent it to this email address. And then, maybe I need to update that email address because it's stacksports.com now instead of Blue Star Sports. So you're able to send those emails directly from the search results when you are reporting on your registrations. So that's one really great way to organize the communication. I'll just hop back in here for a moment and show that when you're doing that kind of thing, I selected all, but you might want to break that down. And instead of selecting all, let's only do the multi-sport folks. So I only really want to communicate with our multi-sport camp people, because maybe there's going to be different information for them versus our summer camp or soccer camp. So you can search by program specifically and send an email directly to those results. The other thing that I can do now that I have those registrants, because going back to the teams that we created previously, I can assign athletes to a team now. And I can use my registration tools to actually help me out with that too. So I'm going to use the born between that will just automatically be as wide as it knows it needs to be. You can restrict on gender and current assignment to a team. I always just select any in my demos, but generally speaking, you might want to restrict that. Position's not important to me, but registration type is. So I want to work on my multi-sport program right now. So I'm just going to select the multi-sport options that are here. And this is just showing us a line for the total versus a line for what could potentially be installments. So when I select those programs, only the people who meet the criteria for those programs are going to show up. I happen to have registered both these people for multiple. So I could select these people and put them in that they're going to be part of, location 1. So I can assign those 2 athletes there to location 1. I can come back in here, do a similar search or the same search with maybe a different set of programs. So I'm going to select that, see my soccer programs, and see we have, oh, look at that, the same 2 registrants. And I'm going to assign them to a different team. So now I've got 2 athletes on my location 1 and on my location 2. They happen to be the same kids, but that's totally fine because they are legitimately signed up that way. So if I look at my summer soccer, I've got location 1. So remember that administrator from before. Now that administrator could come in here and send an email announcement to the people who are on this team, the people who are in this group. So the players and parents are who I want to communicate with. And that's it. I just send my email announcement, and it's the same idea as what we saw previously. So this would be, week 1 is now. Camp starts today. See you soon. I type much faster when I'm not trying to type faster. So when I send this, we'll see a similar result. So it shows that there was players and parents that were selected to receive that. And when I go back to announcements, again, we're going to see that now from this menu, we have sent this and we're able to view the recipients, which is a really good way to kind of track that communication. So we've used the team function here now. So that team administrator is able to come in and do this kind of communication. I'm going to hop out to the master menu just to take another look at some ways that you can organize your website. So I've created a couple of different web pages. We'll look over here. So we'll go to the main menu. My camp programs is a web page that I created that just has a bit of basic content on it, nothing special. And then my multi-sport camp, there'd be information about my camp offerings. As I said earlier, you can put links and things on here. You can organize these in really, really neat ways. So when you're in your website section, you can create web pages or manage existing web pages so that you can create whatever it is that you need. And we'll click manage here and we'll just see I can create sub pages And you can do this an unlimited number of times too. There's no limit to the number of user-created web pages that you can create. And similar to a lot of areas in the Goalline system, you're going to be able to reorder things so that they appear how you want them to appear amongst your items. So if I look at top menu first row and I click reorder, I can reorder the way that these things appear. If I want camp programs to be on the far right instead of on the left, I can reset that in here. And when we refresh, we'll see now registration forms, registration account, and now my program option is here. So you've got lots of choices with how you organize your menu, and whether you're creating web pages or using the standard tool for managing standard menu settings, which are going to be in your settings section here. There's standard menu settings. This takes all of the Goalline standard items that are just part and parcel with the system as being a sport organization, and it lets you place those items in the top menu, first row, second row, not at all, or you can place them below other existing web pages. So I did a webinar recently on website tips and tricks. One first web page I always recommend creating is an About Us, so that you have a place to tuck away all of this important information that doesn't necessarily need to be right in your face all the time. So selecting your standard menu settings there, and then we'll hop out really quick to the last bit, which I was in earlier briefly, is the site configuration tool. Site configuration is useful for all Goalline systems. It is the place where you manage your modules for your silver layout. And if you're a gold layout, it's also where you're going to manage your call out boxes that go below your news slider. So whether if you want those call out boxes to be things like upcoming events or recent headlines, things like that, that's how you're going to do that. I'll click on launch homepage customization tool, and we'll see here that I see a bit of a preview of the site, and it's a bit of a drag and drop thing, right? So when I hover over my main image, it turns green. Anything that turns green means I can interact with it. So I can change my background image to something else, and you can do this as frequently as you want. You can also change the structure. Do I want that image to be taller or shorter, dark, or just the way it was uploaded? When it comes to this call out box section, do I want 2, 3, or 4 of them? So maybe I only want 2, and I want our Facebook widget to be one of them and our Twitter widget to be the other. So you can set up your Twitter information. You can set up all kinds of things in here. Next event or upcoming events is another big one that you'll see a lot, or news articles that can be put in there. Other sport organizations, of course, would have some statistics information available to pull in just based on reporting games and things like that. But for summer camps, what you might want, or camp organization in general, you may want to reduce the number of full-on modules that you have by going kind of minimal with 2 and then just 4. Instead of recent scores, let's go in and put maybe upcoming events in there. There we go, upcoming events, because I'm not going to score games, so I want upcoming events. The great thing about using a lot of these modules is that it helps keep your website fresh with lots of fresh content without you having to do a whole lot of work. So you're taking registrations, maybe creating some news articles as the year goes on or as the season goes on. You're creating events for things like when your registration opens, when it closes, when the camps are, any special events, volunteer nights, things like that, so that your site is going to just populate with all kinds of information without you having to do a lot of work. So now that I've saved that change, if I refresh over here, we'll see that it's a little bit different down below. So now we've only got the 2. I didn't actually put in a Twitter name, so probably should have done that. But now we can see how the content is a little bit different. And when that content is different, it makes it easy for me to organize and know where to find things. And just to follow up there, I've created a couple of events just to represent things like registration over and the camp starts. So those event pages can be configured just like web pages, with lots of really cool information and lots of ways for you to reach out to the people who have signed up for your camps and clinics. So just to make sure that I covered all the bases here, we talked about some shopping cart tools and what the difference is. So the multiple program and multiple participants being able to register all at once, that is obviously a huge benefit when you are offering multiple camps and clinics or or day camps and things. Registration, you can set up those required pieces of information. You can set up a maximum number of people who can register, and you can also restrict things by age and gender. You can also restrict how they can pay, making sure that you get the money you want to receive from your registrants when you want it. So either at the time of registration or based on a due date. Reporting on your programs is as easy as just going to find players and selecting what it is you want to report on. And all of the reports in Goalline are exportable to a CSV formatted file. When it comes to communicating with registrants, communicating from the search screen is one way, and then using the team structure to group all of your registrants into their kind of camp teams is also a really great way to delegate the communication responsibility to a coordinator who's going to help manage that. So that was lots to cover in today's webinar. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you're watching this later while sipping some tea or something, I hope you found something useful, and reach out to our support team if there are some features that you saw today that you don't have on your site and you're interested in enabling. So let us know, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next webinar in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks so much and have a great day.